Namaste and welcome to Youth and Development produced by Today's Youth Asia. In the TV show Youth and Development, we bring young leaders face to face with the key players of development works. My name is Aina, and today we have the privilege of having with us Mr. Quentin Lide, Chief Operating Officer of American Council of Young Political Leaders, ACYPL. He completed his bachelor's from Boston University and his master's degree in American politics from University of London. As Chief Operating Officer, he supervises all current exchange programs and oversees ACYPL's office procedures.
Good morning. Thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to be here today and speak to all of you, the youth of Nepal. My name is Quentin Lide, and I am the Chief Operating Officer with the American Council of Young Political Leaders. We are an NGO, a non-governmental organization that is based in Washington, D.C. We were established about 44 years ago by a group of young American politicians, and many of whom now are retired politicians in America. The reason why it was established was to provide an opportunity for the emerging political leadership in America and around the world with exchange opportunities. We are designed and operate to explore the political situations around the world, and we want to focus on young leadership because as the young leaders grow up and move into higher positions of government, that they have this. It's very important that they have an international perspective. The idea behind these exchanges, again, is to focus on young leaders, and the way we do that is by providing exchange opportunities. So delegations of young leaders from the United States will travel abroad, and this year we'll be working with about 26 or 27 nations around the world. We also have opportunities for young leaders to visit the United States, and it's very important that people from around the world come to the United States. There's perhaps a lot of misconception about American politics, and particularly about our international policies. So we think it's very important that people who are in decision-making positions learn about what's going on around the world. Many of our delegates, the American delegates that travel overseas, have never been abroad before. And I know everybody here today is probably under the age of our requirements, which is 25 to 40. But I know many of you, and I hope many of you here, will be involved in politics, and perhaps someday we'll see you on one of our programs. The age requirement, 25 to 40, and participants must be involved in politics somehow in their home country and in the United States. So that means being an elected official in different levels of our government, at the state and local levels. And in addition, participants can be involved in their political parties, or be involved in the executive branch, in the bureaucracy, and or involved on the NGO side of things in civil society. It's very important in our programs that we have a broad range of participants and political experiences because in many ways it's a great opportunity for the participants to learn about each other within the delegation while they are experiencing the politics and culture of the country that they visit. This year, as I mentioned, we'll be exchanging with about 25 or 26 countries, including Nepal. And over the existence, the 44 years that we have been operating, we have exchanged with some 100 nations. All have come to this program early in their career, and we hope and know that this experience was very instrumental in giving them a world view about politics. Our interest in Nepal is new. We started doing an exchange with Nepal last year when we hosted a delegation of constituent assembly members and others to learn about American politics. And we partnered with Today's Youth Asia on that program, and they have been very supportive of ACYPL and are hosting our delegation here in Nepal during this week. And we're very appreciative of Today's Youth Asia and to all of you here today for being a part of our experience.
Can you please share your experiences over these 9 years?
Sure. These past 9 years have been very interesting for me personally, as well as for my organization. I started working with the American Council of Young Political Leaders in early 2001. And as you will all recall, later that year, in September of 2001, the United States was attacked. And it created some very obvious concerns for the United States and really shifted many of our focus and viewpoints about doing these kinds of exchanges. In many respects, for us, it made our work that much more important. Again, our focus and reason why we do these exchanges is to provide opportunities for Americans and our visitors from overseas to learn about what is going on in each country. We feel that these exchanges really give a very important opportunity now, since 9/11, for our international visitors to come to the United States to really understand the American people, to understand how our foreign policy is developed and implemented, and to really break down barriers of misunderstanding. And in addition, it's very, as I mentioned before, it's very important for our American leaders to travel and learn about what people are thinking around the world about the United States. And it's hard. And it's very shocking, I think, for Americans to hear what people may be thinking about our government. But the bright side of this is that, in my experience traveling around the world in the last 9 years, is that there is a distinction between the mistrust and anger at the United States, and it's focused on the American government and our foreign policy. It's not focused on the American people. And everywhere I've traveled in these last 8 or 9 years, we have been graciously hosted by many countries and received extreme warm wishes and welcome from our hosts and the people that we meet with. So there's a very clear distinction between the anger and, again, mistrust about our foreign policy and the American people. So in many ways, that's reassuring to me. And I've been very fortunate to travel all over the world with this program, and including coming here to Nepal. This is my first time in this part of the world, and I can say without reservation that the welcome that we have received here has been overwhelming, and I am very appreciative of all the interactions and expressions of support that we have received these last 9 days.
While sharing your experience, you said that it was shocking to learn about the mistrust and about the wrong conception that people had about United States government. So was there any sort of such perception or stereotype perception that changed while your visit to Nepal, about Nepal?
Frankly, as I mentioned, I had very little understanding and experiences with regard to Nepal. And through reading newspapers over the last several years, I know that there's been a great transition here in Nepal. I suppose the quick answer to that is I was very surprised about the level of politics that is going on here, and not just in the governmental level. I'm referring more to many elements of society that we've seen and met with over these last few days. If I may give an example, teachers we were told that teachers belong to political parties, and many of the decisions that they make and the schools make have a political perspective to them. And that's a very uncommon experience that we have in the United States. So that was a great surprise to me. And I think it raises the challenges that Nepal faces with regard to the coming constitution that is to be written. I think it's 60 days now. So that surprised me. I think one other thing that surprised me that I was unaware of was the great differences in regional differences across the country, and differences in ethnicity and religion. I was not aware of that, and that was a very interesting thing to hear and to discuss during our meetings. But for me, surprises are a great thing. We are here, after all, to learn about Nepal and to learn about your transition in democracy, and to learn about your rich history and culture. And if I feel that I would not have achieved my mission if I was not surprised about things. And I think certainly over the last few days I have achieved that goal.
Is it difficult for your organization to continue this program every year with in different parts of the world with changing political conditions?
We have a core slate of programs that every year we know that we do exchanges with. And many of those programs we have worked with for 30 or more years. And we have a very long standing relationship with a partner organization in those countries. So every year we know that we will do these kinds of programs in maybe 10 or so countries. We then have a separate, a next category of programs that we do where we're looking at areas of recent transition, areas where perhaps there has been some conflict recently. And those programs, we will do one program a year. So we will either send an American delegation there, or we'll host a delegation from that country. The third category of exchanges will include Nepal, which is a new endeavor for us. And we have been, I mentioned earlier that we work with the U.S. Department of State, and we were talking with them, as we do every year, and they suggested that we do a program with Nepal. So there are challenges, for sure, in particular parts of the world. But again, we're able to navigate between the lines of what is official and what is not. So in many respects, we get the best of both worlds. We're able to meet with very high-level political parties and political individuals, but also not have that scrutiny that that official U.S. delegations would have.
Have you ever faced criticism till now?
On occasion, we do. It's pretty rare, and fortunately, it's pretty rare. On some occasions, our visits will raise certain scrutiny about our intentions and our goals, and it's unfortunate, but we make very clear to our hosts and to people who we meet with that we're not members of the U.S. government, that we are traveling as citizens of the United States and what we call citizen diplomats. We take very important steps to make sure that that is understood. But certainly on occasions, that message has not always been heard. I think overall, our goal and our mission has been warmly received by everybody that we have met with. And certainly, there may be small criticism, but again, I think most of the criticisms are pointed towards our foreign policy and not pointed to us individually and not pointed to the American people. And I'm very grateful for that.
And so, do you really think there's a defect in your foreign policy?
Well, that's an interesting question. We recently had a transition in our administration. We now have a Democratic president after 8 years of a Republican presidency, and those 8 years were very, critical and challenging for Americans. And we, frankly, entered into 2 wars. In Iraq and Afghanistan that still to this day are being waged in many respects. And that has created great divisions around the world and certainly in the United States. And this administration now has a new set of challenges. I think, just speaking for myself and not for anyone else in my organization and certainly not for my U.S. government, I think this is a great opportunity for the administration to speak to the people of the world and to demonstrate, I think, that our interest in certain regions are benevolent and are aimed at promoting democracy and promoting the welfare of everybody.
And have you visited to countries like Iraq and Afghanistan?
No, I have not. And my organization has had some opportunities to do programs in Afghanistan. In fact, about 2 years ago, we hosted a delegation of Afghan officials to the United States, working with the United States Congress. Iraq is a place that we have not had a program yet, but we have been in discussions with the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad and the United States State Department to perhaps do a program with those areas.
Different countries have different political situations, but what still inspires you to organize programs in different parts of the world?
Well, I get inspired every day working at the American Council of Young Political Leaders. We, as I mentioned, we give opportunities for people who have never traveled to the United States or traveled abroad or have had very little international experience. And to see firsthand a country, to meet its people, to meet its leaders, to really understand what's going on around the world, I think is very inspirational. And I get great satisfaction being on these kinds of programs, such as our visit here to Nepal, to see that transformation in somebody is very rewarding.
I, along with my friend, we're going to start a project to help someone who is very needy, and we're going to help her or him by letting him study in some school. So can you please give us some advices regarding that?
I would just encourage you to continue doing that. Involve your friends. With what's going on in your government now with the writing of the Constitution, it's very important that the leaders listen to that 70% of this population that is under the age of 30. It's critical. And it's critical that you let your leaders know what concerns you and how you want to see Nepal look like in the years to come.
I would like to know that what do you think about the policy of our country, Nepal, and like the main problem that has made us lag behind other countries?
It's a complicated question. I think it's a great opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity for Nepal to take an important step towards democracy, towards representative government. And there's certain challenges, and I understand that, and I know the Nepali people understand it. There are certain things that I think in society should not be politics. And we have that problem in the United States. There's some areas that just should not be brought into, a political decision, but rather should be a decision that, would everybody agrees is a good thing to do or not to do. But there's a problem when, a political party or a sector of government or society want to make trouble. And again, we have that problem in the United States. So it's a great challenge, I think, for Nepal, because it seems from my perspective that there's so many things that are being put into the Constitution, so many considerations, that it's a lot to do. I'm very hopeful that the deadline can be met, but it is a challenge. There is something to be said about simplicity and deliberate, ambiguity. But it is also important that there is a consensus. And one of my colleagues the other day mentioned that in any important decision, where there's differing viewpoints and different political perspectives, if everybody leaves the bargaining table a little unhappy, then it's probably a good decision. Because you have to give up something in reaching a consensus. So I'm hopeful that the parties and everybody involved can reach a consensus and maybe leave a little bit unhappy, but at the end of the day that all of the perspectives and viewpoints of the people of Nepal can be achieved, can be represented in this document.
With this, we've come to the end of today's show. Thank you very much, Mr. Quentin Lide, for being with us and sharing your insightful thoughts and ideas. We look forward to your feedback. Our email address is youth@tya@gmail.com. Thank you for watching us. We hope to see you next week at the same time. Have a great week. Namaste.